Díagwich gach duine, an seachtain seo baimíteach déanamh athbhreithnú na Briathra agus na haimsire. So we're doing athbhreithnú, a look back on Briathra, verbs, and aimsire tenses. So we can see here we have our aimsire kacha. Caveman tells us that's past tense. Aimsire loithroch. Hipster tells us that's present tense. And aimsire ashnach, the robot, tells us that's the future. And you know from English, aimsire kacha, past tense, is things like I did it, I was doing it. Aimsire loithroch, present tense, I do it every day. Aimsire ashnach, future tense, I will do it. So let's have a look first at the aimsire kacha. I'd say you know this quite well, but let's have a look at our rules anyway. Sometimes in Irish we make a change at the start of a word, so I've put that in blue here. And sometimes we make a change at the end of the word, so I've put that in pink, just to make it easy for you to see. So the main change in the aimsire kacha is that we take a H. Most letters, most consonants, if you're allowed to put a H on it, you put a H on it. That's how you know you're in the past. So quer, which means put, becomes chwer. So it just has that little kind of harsher sound to tell you I'm in the past. If it's a vowel or an F, we use a D apostrophe. So down there you can see ol, to drink. If I say dole, it means drank. So it turns it into the past. So let's have a look at quer. The very first thing you need to do when you look at a verb, you look at a sentence and you're trying to figure out what am I going to do with this, you have to say to yourself, is this the céad réimniú or the dara réimniú? So are they the one syllable ones or the two syllable ones? So what is this? It's céad réimniú. It goes into the one syllable group, so we know that. And then we ask ourselves, is it quail, narrow, which are the ones with E and I, or is it lahan, broad, which are the ones with A, O, and U? And we can see here in quer that our last vowel is an I, so it's quail. So quer is narrow, and it's in our first group. And that's important because that will tell us later what sort of endings we need to put on. So we have chur, me, tu, she, shiv, she'd. So I put, you put, he put, she put, etc. And the only difference is quer amur for we put. So we gets a special ending. So quer amur, we put. Let's skip down now to ol, and we'll see it's the same thing. It's dol, me, tu, she, shiv, she'd. But then there's a difference. There's dol amur, we drank. You will notice, I hope, that the amur on dole is spelled differently from the amur on quer. And that's because quer was quail, it was narrow, and ol is lahan, it's broad. So that's why we need to pay attention to quail and lahan, because it changes the spelling a little bit of our ending. Okay, so we've got quer amur and dole amur. The next thing we need to look at here is how do we do questions and answers. So in the past tense, you'll see it underlined here, air. Air where to. Did you put? Air is my question word for the past tense. And you'll see it there with ol. Air ol to. Did you drink? Air. Now, if I want to say yes, I just say the verb back to them. I say quer me. Yeah, I did put. Or dole me. Yeah, I did drink. But if I want to say no, I didn't, I use near. Near where me. I didn't put. Near ol me. I didn't drink. So our question words for the aimsire kacha when we're working in the past tense, air for the question, near for the no answer. When do we need to use the past tense? Well, have a look out for these words down here. So when you're doing your worksheets or when you're reading, you're looking out for little clues like this. Inye, yesterday. An teachtain seo cacha, last week. An deirdín seo cacha, last Thursday. So seo cacha just means last. Me óhin, a month ago. Óhin means ago. And the last one there is anuri, which means last year. So that's our aimsire kacha. Now let's have a look at our aimsire láithreach, our present tense. We don't need to ask ourselves now, are we dealing with céad réimniú or dara réimniú? Because we already figured that out, didn't we? We said that quer and ol are both céad réimniú, they're both the one syllable ones. And we've also figured out already that quer is quail and that ol is lamb, so we know that. Now let's have a look at quer. Straight away, there is a change here from the Aimsir kacha. There's no H, is there? We do not use the H for the Aimsir loithroch, so we get rid of the H. The second difference we have here is im, quer im. There is a special ending here for me. So we remember that in the Aimsir kacha, there was a special ending for we, but now in the Aimsir loithroch, there's also a special ending for me. So I say querum, I put. Then I say queran tu, she, she, shiv, shead. You put, he puts, she puts, and so on. If I wanted to write queran me, if I wanted to write that instead of saying querum, that would be allowed. That's okay. You can do that, but most of the time you would say querum. So I've querum for me, I've queran for all the others, and then I've queramij for we. Okay? Querum, me, queran for everyone else, and queramij for we. Jump down here to ol and have a look at ol, and it's the exact same thing. Olum for me, olun for everybody else, and olamij for we. And just like with our past tense, we'll know that the spelling on the endings is slightly different. There's a slight difference, and that's to remind you that one of them is quail and the other one is lamb. Now, let's have a look at our questions here. Straight away, we have a difference with our questions. Our question word for the past tense was but now it's on. Do you see the difference? A-N, on. And what we do here is we put an uru on it, which is one of those little letters that goes at the start. So we'd say on gwurun tu, do you put? Again, the answer is just, yeah, I do put, quorum. And here our no word, it used to be near, but now it's just ni chorum. And I put a H on. So ni chorum. I put a H on to say, no, I'm not putting it. I'm not putting it. Let's have a look at our ol. And it's similar. We have on is our question word and ni is our no answer. But the difference here is the uru for a vowel is an N hyphen. So I say on nolan too. Then I say olum for yes, I do drink. And then I say ni olum. Can't put a H on the front of a vowel, so I don't do anything there. Ni olum, I don't drink. Okay, so our main thing we need to remember for our Aimsir loithroch is we have a special ending for me, which is we have un for everything else, and we have imij for we. What sort of times would you be using the Aimsir loithroch? Well, these are the kind of words you need to look out for. Inu, which means today, gach lá, every day, gach seachtain, every week, gach just means every, gomininic, which means often, or go Rialta, which kind of means regularly. Okay, so those are the kind of words that would say, yeah, I'm doing this in the present all the time. So when you're doing your reading or your worksheets, keep a lookout for those ones. Now we're going to move on to our future. Again, we don't need to worry about céad réimniú. We know it's céad réimniú. We don't need to worry about quail. We know that quer is quail, and we know that ol is lamb. So, into the future, similarity here, there's no H. So just like the Aimsir loithroch, we don't use the H's in the future, so we can forget about those. We do not have a special ending for me anymore. Okay, the only time we have the special ending for me is in the present tense. So in the future tense, we're back to saying may, tu, she, and our ending is fidh. Now, some people pronounce it as fi, and some people pronounce it as he. So you could say quer fi may, tu, she, or you could say quer he may, tu, she. Kind of depends on where you're from. So, querfi may, tu, she, shiv, shead. I will put, you will put, he will put. And then our ending for we is querfamij. So it's actually a lot like the Aimsir Loihrach one, isn't it? Querfamij. Then our questions, again, it's on to ask the question, it's ni to say no. There's an uru at the start for the question, and there's a h if you're saying no. And then if we look at ol, same thing. Ol fi me tu she shiv shiad, and ol famij. And just like in all of them before, the spelling is slightly different for the endings because these ones are Latin. When are we going to see these ones? We're looking for words like amora, tomorrow, igyaun shaktana, in a week, igyaun miasa, in a month. On Kadeen sho, this Wednesday. So you could be saying, let's say if it was Monday, you could say, I will be doing that this Wednesday. Or you could say, on blian shochuin, next year. So sho means this, but shochuin means next. Okay, so now we're looking at another group of verbs. We're looking at balig, to collect, and kriaknig, to finish. And I hope that you're seeing what I'm seeing straight away. What's different about these verbs? They have two syllables, don't they? Bal, yig, kriak, nig. So you have two syllables, which means they are dara reimnu. They're the two-syllable group. Can you tell me, is balig quail? Is it narrow? Or is it lahan? Is it broad? It's quail. And kriaknig then is our lahan example. So let's have a look at our past tense. Aimsir kacha. A lot of the same rules apply here. We have a H on a consonant to say it's the past tense. Look at our blue H. We have valyug, me tu she, shiv, shiad, but we have a special ending for we. Now, in our K-Dream news, our we ending is amur, but in our Dara Reim news, our we ending sounds different. It's eamur. So we get val eamur, we collected. Val eamur, we collected. The rules for the questions are the same. It's air to ask a question in the past and you keep your H's. And it's near to say no. Look down at kriaknig, it's the exact same thing. We have a H to say we're in the past, and we have eamur for we. The difference is our eamur is spelled a little bit different, and that's our difference between quail and lahan. Okay, if we look over to our present, we again have a special ending for me. So we say balium and kriaknium. I collect, I finish. So we have the same thing, a special ending for me, but it's just a little bit different to the one we use for the Cade Reimnu. Their ones were and now I'm Let's have a look at our ending for you, he, she, everyone else. It's Ian, Balian, and Creeknian. In our Cade Reimnus, it was just an. And now it's Ian. So there's a difference in the sound, there's a difference in the spelling. So Balian and Creeknian. And again, we have a special ending for we. It's Iamij, Bal Iamij, Creekniamij. In our Cade Reimnu ones, it was just Imij. And now it's Iamij. So it's kind of a bit more, kind of almost sounds like there's an extra syllable in there, doesn't it? Iamij, Bal Iamij, Creekniamij. If we look at our questions, it's the same as the Cade Reimnu. We use on to ask the question. We use an uru. And if we want to say no, we say ni, and we use a h. So on malian to, do you collect? Balium, yes I do collect. Or ni valium, no I don't collect. On Greeknian to, do you finish? Creeknium, yes I do finish. Ni creeknium, no I don't finish. And now let's look at the future ones. And we're back to not having a special ending for me. We only have the special ending for me in the present. So we're back to having baloi, me tu she, shiv and shiad. and a special ending for we, baloamij. Okay, this is different because in Arcade Rame News there was an F sound here. It's not here for our Dara Rame News. So we've balioe, and creeknoe. Balioamij for we, and creeknoamij for we. The sound is the same, the spelling is a little bit different because one is quail and one is Latin. Again, if we look at our question, it's on to ask the question. We use an uru, just like in the present tense, and we use ni and a h, just like in the present tense. Okay, so there's a lot of information here. What you need to remember is, now let's look at them all together. If we look at all of our past tenses together, all of our I'm sure kachas, we can see the same thing over and over again. We use a H. We use amer or eamer for we. Okay, so the main things to remember are use a H and have a special ending for we. If you look at your I'm sure loihruk, your main things to remember are don't use a H. You have a special ending for me and a special ending for we. And if we look at our future, again, don't use a H, but now we're back to not having a special ending for me, just a special ending for we. So, learning these and figuring out which ones to use just takes a bit of practice. The first question you need to ask yourself is, am I looking at a one-syllable one or a two-syllable one? And then the next question you need to ask yourself is it quail or Latin? And then after that, you can use this sheet to figure out what endings to use. So if quer is a one-syllable quail verb, then every other one-syllable quail verb you meet, you'll just use the same endings that we use for quer. If creeknig is a two-syllable broad verb, then again, any two-syllable broad verb that you meet, you just use the same endings that go with these. What I would do, I would get this sheet and I would either print it and stick it to the wall, or if you don't have a printer, when you're doing your work, I would have this on the screen to look at. So that will help you figure out what to do with each one. And like I said, it looks like a lot of information, but actually all you need to do is practice this for a while, and by the time you are at the end of 4th or 5th class, you will actually be really good at this. So I hope that makes it a bit more straightforward, and try that out this week.